Okay, so let's jump in. Let's finish this last three processes. So control procurements, exactly what it sounds like. It's making sure that your contractors are adhering to the letter of that contract. It's making sure that, if you've hired third-party labor, they're showing up on time and they're producing the results that you thought they would. All right. So you also have in this process is where you close out your procurements, right? If a procurement's been satisfied, you hand it off to the next department so that they can pay the folks. And we get lessons learned. We have regular lessons learned for the project. We'll also have lessons learned for our procurement, right? We'll have a procurement audit that teaches us how to get better at making purchases. So a lot of inputs here. Plans, because when we buy stuff, right, we got to look at milestones and quality reports and traceability matrix. The agreements or contracts themselves. Procurement documentation. This is the RFPs, RFQs, RFIs. We'll use these tools and techniques to close out our procurements. And then we get generic updates or outputs, work performance information, procurement documentation updates. These are the main updates from this process. Is 1 and 2. The rest of these are all generic, right? We always get work performance information, potential change requests, updates to our approach, updates to our documents. But here we also may get OPA updates. We may add a seller to our approved vendor list, or we may come up with a new contract type. Right, so we'll get OPA updates as well. So then the key outputs, work performance information, right? Data in, information out. Change for request, a request for change, updates to our approach and document. So along with schedule, cost, and risk performance information, procurement work-related performance information is also an input. Remember, data in, information out. This information becomes an input to monitor and control so we can get a work performance report. Okay. We also get formal verification of work completed is required, right? So for the exam, in order for you to have a closed procurement, somewhere in the question, it needs to mention that the procurement has been formally verified. Somewhere, formal verification, just the same way you need formal sign-off from the sponsor. For validate scope, you need formal verification of work completed to close the procurement. Okay. So written notice, something in exam will describe written notice or that you've accepted, the work, you've signed off on it. Something like that needs to happen in order for you to say it's, you can close it. And then you may get OPA updates. Lessons learned, or update your preferred vendor list, something like that. To get there, we'll take the RFPs, RFQs, RFIs that we developed. We'll take the plan and any data for exactly what's happening with the seller at that moment. And then we'll inspect and we'll audit their work. All right, so the same way the sponsor inspects and audits our work when they validate scope, when we're controlling the procurement, we're technically doing that for the vendors, right? That we're validating the vendor scope for them, right? So we'll inspect and we'll take a look around and we'll look at the deliverables and we'll accept them as complete. All right. We may also audit. All right, and so a procurement audit. Okay, let me. There's let me put here, just inspections and audits. Okay. So what's written here? The audit, structured and defined per contract, issues identified can trigger change requests or adjustments. Okay. So what PMI is pretty interesting in this audit word here. Okay. The procurement audit. So I know the bullet points say structured and defined per contract and any issues, but a procurement audit is an internal check of the processes. All right, so this is where we go back and we say, okay, in our bidders conference, did we get 1,000,001 questions? Perhaps our RFP wasn't written well enough. us and the seller had a lot of go back and forth between the contract. Perhaps our statement of work wasn't written well enough. Maybe our source selection criteria wasn't good. Maybe we used contract types that were unfavorable to our position, within the project. Whatever it may be, a procurement audit is an internal look at yourself. So, all right, we call the audit, we'll say internal to the team. And an inspection is external. That's on your vendor. External on the vendor, right? So an inspection is for your vendor, and audit is for yourself. So just kind of, PMI's language is a little funny. So, you can, although that's not incorrect, I want you to just look at it. If you think of it that way, it's going to help you answer the questions on the exam. An audit, a procurement audit, is us looking internally at our buying practices, and a procurement inspection is where you're looking at the vendor's deliverables, their work. Are they adhering to the letter of the contract? Okay. We'll analyze data. It's another tool and technique. It could just be deliverable status. It could just be testing results, all right, some type of reviews, but analyze it. Same thing. You can do earned value analysis. You can do trend analysis, root cause analysis, whatever type of analysis you need to do. All right. Then there's the claims administration's procedure. So you want to highlight this one here. This is going to come up on the exam. And the claims administration procedure it's a generic dispute process for PMI. So PMI says this: you and a vendor have an issue. The first thing you need to do is negotiate. Talk it out. Hear their side. They can hear your side. Work something out. If you can't, the next step, mediation. Introduce a neutral third party. Have them look at both sides and provide a ruling. Now, mediation is not binding, so most companies don't even do that. They skip straight to arbitration, right? Arbitration is the next step. And usually in the contracts, it'll say this is the preferred method, a panel of 3 or 5, and it's binding, and the loser will have to pay for the winner's legal bills, right? Which is like a standard contract, right? And if you disagree with that arbitration ruling, you are free to appeal and go to full-blown litigation. So that is the claims administration procedure. We first look to negotiate, negotiate, and then we go to mediation, then we go to arbitration, and then litigation, right? So that's how you escalate through the claims administration procedure. And so PMI is going to ask you questions about this, and they're going to describe the fact that you have some dispute and you're arguing, aka negotiating, or some third parties come in, or you've gone, in front of an arbitration panel, quicker to get on the docket. It costs less than going to full blown trial. And PMI is going to say, what should the project manager do? Okay. If they say, what should you do? You're going to pick, I'm going to follow the claims administration procedure, or I'm going to follow the dispute resolution process. If they say what's happening, then you're going to pick, they're negotiating, or they're mediating, or they're arbitrating, or they're litigating, okay? So if they say, what should you do? You're going to pick, I'm going to use the claims administration procedure. Don't get tricked into, it sounds like they're negotiating, so what should I do? I should go to mediation, or I should go to arbitration. No, you should use the claims administration procedure, which will tell you if you're going to go to mediation or arbitration or litigation, okay? So that's just a little caveat for the exam. Pick the PMI, official sounding term, if you will.